Nigerian writer Chimamanda Adichie has addressed issues raised by her article concerning Nigeria's 2023 presidential elections. In an interview with Arise TV, the award-winning writer faulted the United States government for congratulating Nigeria for an election that was flawed. She also said that as a Nigerian, she has every right to comment on an election that took place in her own country. Adichie, during the interview, addressed several issues arising from the presidential elections in Nigeria, and addressing Nobel laureate Wole Soyinka, who in an interview described the Labour Party deputy presidential candidate Datti Baba-Ahmed as fascistic. Adichie stated that there is no reason why Datti should be termed a fascist by Soyinka.
There are many other Igbo men who I admire and respect, and I would never vote for them for president because I just don't think they would make good presidents. And so my support for Peter Obi is actually rooted in real things. It's rooted in my faith in his ability. And actually, I got to know him, I got to know Peter Obi years ago when he came to pay homage to my parents, because he had heard that my father was the first professor of statistics in Nigeria and that my mother had retired as the first female registrar of the University of Nigeria. And so this man just sort of arrived and said he wanted to pay homage. And I was very impressed by that because it showed me how much he values education. And then he becomes governor of Anambra State, and he takes Anambra State to #1 in education. And I remember being very impressed by the story of how he had given his personal phone number to all of the senior prefects in secondary schools in Anambra, which I think also showed me that he's interested in what ordinary people think, right? You know, you don't just want to hear from the administrators, you want to hear from the students about what's really happening. And his focus on insecurity, he really tackled kidnapping in Anambra. And I also remember that he really sort of clashed with the Anambra elite when he was tackling insecurity and kidnapping. And that showed me that he's quite decisive. He even has a bit of a stubborn streak. You know, if he's very focused on things. And so that's really why I support him. So this idea of sort of ethnicity is just really, again, I think it's a way of deflecting. Let's focus on what really matters. It's unfortunate that, you know, and can I just say that I think that it's only one part of the political spectrum that is politicizing ethnicity, and I think it's very unfortunate. You know, I don't think most people in Nigeria really care about ethnicity as much as they care about having a country that works. You know, we want good leadership. We want the hospitals and the schools and the roads to be good. And and that affects everyone. Igbo, Yoruba, Ijo, it affects everyone. I have a lot of love for Professor Soyinka. I admire him, I respect him as a thinker, as a writer. I think everyone should read The Man Died, and Ake, his memoir, is beautiful, right? But at the same time, I disagree very strongly with him about this particular issue. And actually, because I respect Professor Soyinka so much, I went back and watched the interview. I had watched it when it aired initially, but I went back and watched it because I thought, am I missing something? And I think fascist is a really strong word. You know, fascist actually often makes me think of Mussolini's Italy. But I think we use it now, you know, sort of to address this kind of authoritarianism that's often populist and right-wing, you know, like in Hungary, and even the former American president. And when you look at those situations, you can see why they have been termed fascist. And I did not see any reason that Mr. Datti Baba-Ahmed's interview would have been termed fascist. You know, I think he was making a very strongly felt point about the elections. What he was saying, which again I thought seemed fairly reasonable, is that if our democracy is rooted in our constitution, and you then swear in a person who's been elected unconstitutionally, then you are in fact ending democracy. I think it's quite a reasonable position. Of course, we can argue about what that bit in the Constitution means, right? And I'm actually grateful for this whole election period because it's made me read things I probably never would have, such as the Nigerian Constitution, and also made me have quite a few suggestions for editing. But anyway, I think now we're talking about what does "and" mean, right? So Mr. Datti Baba-Ahmed is saying that it's 2/3 and the FCT, and that's separate, and it's a reasonable argument. And is a conjunction. We use it in that context often to mean plural, right? So we say Aisha and Yemi are coming, and we don't say Aisha and Yemi is coming. That's because they're two separate things, two separate entities. And of course the court will interpret, but I don't think it's unreasonable for educated Nigerians who can read and who know what the word "and" means to make their own interpretations and to argue it. And of course, the fact that the Labour Party is in court means that they do not believe that this election is constitutional. And so I just didn't, I didn't quite see why it would be termed fascist. I mean, I think a charitable way of reading Professor Soyinka's comment is that Professor Soyinka himself, I think it's fair to say that he is not given to restraint in language in general. And so maybe that's where that word fascist came from. However, I have suggestions for what we could use fascist for. We could use fascist for INEC, because as it is right now, many Nigerians feel deeply cheated by INEC, deeply disenfranchised by INEC. And there's an authoritarianism, which obviously is the basis of fascism, at the center of manipulating an election. Because what you're doing is you're gagging people, you're forcibly taking away their voice. That is fascist. Fascist is all of the violence that happened during the elections. Fascist is the way that some people remain silent about that violence. Fascist is, is a government that hasn't come out to address the very tangible and palpable discontent in this country. I think that, and when I say that we can use fascist for INEC, what I mean is the fact that, so many of us, including myself, are convinced that this was not in any way technological glitch. I think that Professor Yakubu had an opportunity for heroism, and I think he wasted it spectacularly. Because he could very easily have become the hero of not just Nigerians, but Africa, because so many Africans are watching. They were so inspired by what happened before this election and the obedient movement. And so, I also think that the president, President Buhari, missed an opportunity for heroism, maybe his last chance at heroism, because Nigerians do not feel that I think Nigerians felt before the elections that he meant well and meant to support credible elections. I don't think many Nigerians think that now. Right. And I wish that he had taken a page from the former president.
Very briefly, because we're out of time.
Who was a really good man, a moral man.
Right. Just literally 10 seconds. The opposition parties are challenging the election in court. Do you think they'll get a fair hearing?
I hope they will. I think there's reason to doubt that because the Supreme Court has had rulings that just did not make a lot of sense to most people. And so there's reason to worry, but I'm hopeful. I'm generally hopeful. So I'm optimistic that they will do the right thing and that people will get justice.
Please subscribe to this channel, NewsPopNG, for more updates. Like and share this video, and also drop your comments down the comment section. I am Blessing Izija. Thank you for watching.